Morning, James. You all right?
Hello, hello. How are we?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good. Well, let's get cracking, I suppose. How do you keep the feel-good factor going then with Barnet this weekend?
Winning. Look, obviously we want to win as many games as we can. It's been fantastic, the form up to date. I don't ever like to lose, but I'll accept that loss against Chelsea with their team sheet that they put out. So I'll accept that one. Get back on the road to Barnet, and we look forward to playing them. We thank them also for bringing it forward to the Saturday. Makes sense for both clubs, so we're happy to play.
On reflection, what do you learn from your squad of players taking on a squad of players like that you can take forward into the National League and beyond? Or are they just that much better generally?
Well, yeah, we know there's going to be a gulf technically. That the players are 4 tiers apart, but in general, what we can learn, the positives, I like to spin on the positives, is that there's a monumental effort to balance the mindset at half-time after coming off a heavy loss in the first half. We gave the crowd or the supporters something to cheer about live, and many around the world. When that goal went in, I think it's a significant moment for our process of getting back onto where we want to be. And it was some view, as I said, and some noise when that goal went in, and some feeling, and a feeling I'm sure that many Spyrites will hold tight in their memories for the rest of their lives.
So how's Kwasi Asante been this week? How many times has he had to be peeled off the walls?
He's in good spirits. That will do him wonders, and that shows for any young footballer out there or any aspiring sportsman, elite sportsman, that if you're focused and you're dedicated to your work, whether you're a coach, player, whatever you're doing in any field of sport, you bounce back like that a month early, you get your rewards, and he certainly got that, didn't it, with that tap-in. It was meant to be the way it fell to him. It took an age to go in the goal, though. It felt like it took about a minute for him just to tap it in. I thought he was going to stoop to his knees and head it in at one moment. So, no, it was a good feeling, great moment for everybody, and especially for the trust that have obviously saved the club. It's a great reward for them, isn't it? Because obviously the club, without going over old ground, was on its knees when they came in, and that's a credit to them, and that's a little pat on the back, that one.
Because it's kind of what you wanted. Well, you wanted to win, obviously, but that was the kind of the target set, I suppose, wanted to get that goal in front of the fans.
I think so, and I think at half-time when you take stock, and I think a couple of players were obviously a little bit shell-shocked by the level of the opposition. Of course, they're European champions, and I think 6 of their team sheet outfield played in the semi-final 4 days later at Tottenham, so shows how strong they were. But again, it's a monumental effort to reset and go again at half-time and get the goal and draw the second half. As soon as the whistle went, knowing me, obviously I was straight on to Barnet, but I allowed the players a couple of days to reflect, and then they were back on the training ground on Tuesday.
And is everybody all right after the match at Stamford Bridge? Any new concerns?
No, everybody's okay. It was good to get minutes into the legs of Lawrence, for example, and Luke Kroll. Kwasi again got his half an hour. So, yeah, we're looking stronger going into tomorrow's game.
And are there any kind of significant developments with injuries on the positive front and players getting back? I know it's only been a week since we last spoke to you, but is there any news in that respect?
Not the long-term ones. The long-term are still long-term. We're still waiting on Danny Rowe for the green light for him to come back into training, so that hasn't changed. So really, how the squad looked at Chelsea are the ones that have really trained this week and are available for selection.
People like to talk about the financial side of cup successes and getting a team like Chelsea. Do you get part of that money now to spend in the transfer market?
I think that if I want to do some activity in the transfer market, we can. It has to be the right player. We don't just want to scattergun. We know what we need to improve. But I would suggest that if we didn't have the long-term injuries of Clark and Rowe, we might be in a different situation, because I think the squad will be very healthy now. So I think the losses of those two technicians, I think that's heavy on any squad in our league to lose 2 of those players of that ilk. So we need to strengthen because of that if we want to be where we want to be at the end of this journey.
And forgive me if this has been mentioned before, but I remember you and I speaking about it just prior to the Halifax game. Is it a definite that Clark will be out for the season now, because he was in the midst of of scans and all of that. So is he sadly out now for the rest of the campaign?
Yeah, he's had his operation last week, which was successful. Back in the week before last. Now it's about his mindset. That's about me working with him on a daily basis, making sure he's balanced like we did with Kwasi, making sure he's positive in his return. And at the moment, obviously, he's couch ridden. But when he starts driving again, etc., or he can get lifts in and walking around a little bit with crutches, he can come in and start that process, the long road back. And look, we've signed Jack obviously for next year as well. He's a very talented individual. And all I'm interested in is making sure he comes back and we see the best out of him next season, 2022-23. God, I sound old saying that. 2022-23. Where did the time go?
Doesn't it just? Well, I think we're all in that boat now, aren't we? Sadly. So does that mean then, given the types of the players that are absent for you, you kind of accelerating plans to find somebody like that, even if it's just a short-term thing to get you through this season?
We can play in many different ways. I've shown that in the 14 months. We can get results in different ways, and I think that's a mark of a good team. So, look, my options are open in terms of what type of players we want to bring in, and what I see fit going forward for this next 4.5 months to try and get promotion.
So, Barnet then, the next challenge. What's your assessment of them?
They've had a real upturn with obviously the manager change. They've had a bit of a problem with the schedule. It hasn't been consistent for them, which has affected their results because it's difficult if you don't play for periods of time. You come back in, you want to reach those same levels. They've got a great result, obviously, New Year's at Bourne Woods. It shows their capabilities away from home. And they want to play better than probably what they did in their last home game. But again, because their schedule's been scattered, it affects the consistency and the rhythm of what you're trying to do. So they're going to be going out all guns to try and get a victory against us and also to reach better performance outcomes, I'm sure. And they've got the capabilities in their squad to do that.
How, just finally then, do you guard against complacency? People like me ask about this type of thing and it's almost become a cliche, but how do you actively sort of make sure the lads, given the success that they've achieved already in the National League and obviously getting the credit out of the game at Chelsea, that they don't become complacent?
It's a good question because obviously it's probably on the tongue of quite a lot of people around the club, and when you don't do very well, there's a lot of noise. When you do well, which we are at the moment, there's also a lot of noise for different reasons, and it can become distracting and you lose focus on what you're doing day to day. It's about having consistent behaviours every day in what you're doing, making sure that even if people come below those standards that might be outside of the environment you're working in, you don't stoop yourself to those levels or you don't get distracted. It's about consistency in what you're doing. We're very much an advocate, or the environment we've set is an advocate for individuality. We like individuals to be themselves. We like a lot of fun in the environment. When they work, we like to provide that individuality with the foundations and the framework for them to develop and improve every day. That won't change. That'll be here regardless of what the result is at Barnet. Yes, we want to win. If we don't get the result we want, nothing will change on Monday preparing for Maidenhead. We're consistent in what we're doing. It was the same for Chelsea. Everything was geared the same. Yes, there was even more noise than usual because it was such a big day for the club. But we remain focused, and that's why we got the second half performance out of the lads.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Good morning, James.
Good morning, Liam.
It was great to see Lawrence Maguire and Luke Kroll back in the fold on Saturday. A lot of fans are just asking, is Luke Kroll here till the end of the season? And I think initially it was announced it was a short-term deal. Is there any more sort of information you can give on that?
Yeah, we've agreed that till the end of the season, so that's really good news for us. It happened in amongst the madness leading up to the Chelsea game, so it got missed. So yeah, we're really pleased to do that. He's conducted himself really well. It was probably our doing really why he picked up that injury, because he'd come off the back of obviously an injury and then he hadn't played consistently, and we put such a demand on him to play in that FA Cup game and those league games that come thick and fast around the Southend FA Cup game, that it was too much for him, so he broke down. So we'll take some fault for that, why he got injured, but we know now he's back at full throttle and we can manage him a little bit better because we've got more numbers and not just 2 or 3 on the bench, and we've got some centre halves obviously available. We can manage his game time now when he comes back in, and I thought he was what we saw against Chelsea, he's a top player, and we're fortunate to have him.
And like you say, you've got some real strength in depth in that back three now. Have you got some tough selection dilemmas to make as to which sort of three you go with over the next few weeks?
Well, we'll have to mix and match because of what I've just said. Players coming back from injury. Obviously, Loza got 25 minutes against Chelsea, which is great. It's another 25 minutes in his bank. And we will have to mix and match with the games coming thick and fast, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, for example, in the next 8 days. Everyone will need to play their part, and look, I'm not going to complain about that from where we were. It's a good thing. I'm being positive about it. We've got some people that can come in and do different roles in the team. Luke popped into midfield in the back end of the game against Chelsea and done really well as well. So he can play left back, left sided centre half, middle of a three, and at the base of midfield. And I think that's really important at National League level because of the intensity of the games and the different types of challenges you get. I think there's no league like it really where you can play a certain team that plays a certain way in our league, and then you have the complete opposite in a completely different environment the following 3 days later on a Tuesday night. So it's important that the players can do different roles and fulfil different responsibilities within the team, and Luke certainly ticks those boxes for us.
On to league action then, and obviously the table after the midweek results is looking very tight. Is it going to be an exciting second half of the season then, do you feel?
Yeah, and I think it's important to take stock of how far we've come in terms of we're challenging. We're in the mix. It's going to be a really exciting 4.5 months, and you've got to be positive in your mindset on it. Whether you're a supporter, director, player, you have to broaden those shoulders, take that expectation on, and have a right go and have no regrets come May the 14th. I believe we're in that place. I think our league form reflects that in terms of we've only been defeated once so far in the league. I think that's a credit to everybody in the environment, from the top of the structure all the way down. We're in a really good place, and we want to be positive moving forwards. It's important to keep our focus. But the only way you can do that is making sure the small things and the small details are done correctly and consistently. If you do that, you get the big things right.
Given how tight it is, do you think it'll go right to the end, right to the wire?
We can assume so. Look, we're nearly at the halfway point. I think the league is a little bit false at the moment because there's teams catching up on games. There's teams that have played 3 or 4 games more than others. So I think right through the league, I think it's a little bit false in terms of where actually people are on their positions. But come February, when people catch up them games, I think it'll be an interesting table for sure.
Are you like the rest of us looking at midweek results and looking for the final scores, or are you trying to ignore all of that and just focus on your own team?
Well, it's only natural you get messages from your network on results, etc. Because that's, you're in the game. It's live, isn't it? It's when you don't play, people update you, etc. And it's hard not to have a look or whatever. So, but not really for me. I'm just consistent in what I'm doing in terms of what we need to do to get over the line to get promotion. So at the moment, the automatic spot is open to 8 or 9 teams. Someone can come first out of those 8 or 9 teams for sure. But I know what points it will take to get there, really. It has done for the last 5 years in terms of 2 points a game. That doesn't change year to year. If someone gets more than 2 points a game average, then credit to them, pat them on the back, and they deserve it if it's not us. At the moment, we're averaging above 2 points, which shows that going into the second half of the season, we're in a good place. But we won't take our foot off the gas now. It's about putting our foot down and going even stronger if we can. We know what it will take to get that automatic spot. But we also have to remember that other clubs have got game plans too, not just us. They're going to throw some punches. They're going to want to get that end spot as well. It makes for a hell of a second half of the season. I'm just really proud and glad that we can be part of that. And it's going to be a great challenge for us.
And in terms of any possible incomings, are you still working hard at that? Are things still sort of whirring away in the background there?
Yeah, I'm sure things will come out in the next few weeks that have some truth. Some will have no truth at all. We're looking to strengthen. All I'm doing is focus on ourselves. I won't comment on other clubs or other players that are with other clubs because that's not in my nature to do that. All my energy is on Chesterfield Football Club and what we're doing inside this building and how to improve our environment. And at the moment, we're obviously a couple short of where we need to be in terms of playing personnel.
Have you had any bids for any of your players so far?
We haven't. No, we've had no bids at all. We've obviously looking maybe to loan a couple out if we can, because players are coming back from different injury scenarios. Some players haven't had enough game time, and with players returning to injury that are part of my plans that we need in certain positions, that opens the door maybe for a couple of players maybe to go out to get some games.